Tommy Lynn Sells. The name sends shivers down your spine, doesn't it? A man whose very existence is a testament to the darkest corners of human nature. This man, this monster, claimed to have murdered over 70 people. 70 lives, each with their own stories, dreams, and loved ones brutally cut short. 70 souls snuffed out, scattered across 14 states. Each state bearing the scars of his heinous acts, each community haunted by his memory. From the late 1980s to 2000, he was a phantom, drifting through the lives of the innocent, leaving a trail of blood and heartbreak in his wake. He was a shadow, a nightmare that became all too real for his victims. Sells confessed to these murders, boasting of his gruesome deeds. His confessions were chilling, each word a window into a mind devoid of empathy. Law enforcement officials, while skeptical of his full claim, could tie him to numerous murders, confirming the chilling truth. We were dealing with a serial killer of staggering proportions. The evidence was overwhelming, the horror undeniable. The sheer scale of his alleged crimes is hard to fathom. Each photograph, each note, a testament to the lives he destroyed. But it's not just the numbers that make your blood run cold. It's the randomness, the cruelty, the complete and utter disregard for human life. The fear he instilled in communities, the way he shattered the sense of safety. It's the randomness, the cruelty, the complete and utter disregard for human life. Each victim a reminder of the fragility of life, each memorial a silent cry for justice. Sells didn't have a type, not in the traditional sense. He wasn't targeting a specific race, profession, or age group. His victims ranged from young children to the elderly. Men, women, it didn't matter to him. They were simply obstacles in his path, playthings for his twisted desires. This indiscriminate selection of victims is one of the most terrifying aspects of his crimes. It means that no one was safe. He could be anywhere, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next target. It was like trying to catch smoke. His methods were equally varied and disturbing. Stabbings, shootings, strangulations. He seemed to relish the act of inflicting pain, of exerting his power over the helpless. You can't talk about a monster like Sells without looking back at his origins. His life, as you might imagine, was a horror show from the start. Born in 1964, Sells's early years were marked by neglect, abuse, and tragedy. By the time he was a teenager, he was already deeply troubled, drifting in and out of juvenile detention centers. His first known murder occurred when he was just 15 years old. 15. Imagine the darkness that must have already taken root in his soul to commit such a heinous act at such a young age. This early act of violence set the stage for a life of crime and brutality. One case in particular brought Sells's reign of terror into sharp focus: the murder of 8-year-old Kayleen Harris in Del Rio, Texas in 1999. Sells had been working as a carnival worker in town, blending into the background noise, just another face in the crowd. He snuck into the Harris home on the night of December 31st, 1999, while the family was sleeping. Little Kayleen stood no chance. Her murder shook the small community to its core. It was a stark reminder that evil could lurk even in the most unexpected of places. The community, desperate for answers, held its breath. The investigation ran cold. Then, a break. Section 5. DNA, the silent witness. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, DNA technology was beginning to revolutionize criminal investigations. Law enforcement agencies across the country were starting to see its potential in solving crimes that had once seemed unsolvable. In the case of Tommy Lynn Sells, DNA would prove to be his undoing. A national DNA database contained Sells' profile from a previous unrelated arrest. When investigators ran the DNA found at the scene of Kayleen's murder, they got a hit. Finally, they had a name, a face to put to the nightmare. Section 6. Justice for Crystal. While awaiting trial for Kayleen's murder, Sells was linked to another horrific crime, the murder of 13-year-old Crystal Searles in San Antonio, Texas. Like Kayleen, Crystal was attacked in her own home. Unlike Kayleen, Crystal survived the attack. Her testimony would prove crucial in putting Sells away for good. Crystal's bravery in confronting her attacker in court was nothing short of heroic. Her powerful testimony detailing Sells' brutal attack left no doubt in the jury's minds. Sells was found guilty and sentenced to death for Crystal's murder. Section 7. A trail of unanswered questions. Even with his capture and conviction, Tommy Lynn Sells left behind more questions than answers. What drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? Were there other victims out there, their cases still unsolved? These are questions that continue to haunt investigators and the families of his victims to this day. Some experts believe that Sells's transient lifestyle, drifting from town to town, made it easier for him to evade capture for so long. Others point to his chaotic upbringing, the abuse he suffered as a child, as contributing factors to his violent tendencies. Section 8. The psychology of a nomad killer. Sells fits the profile of what criminologists call a nomadic serial killer. These killers are characterized by their constant movement, never staying in one place for too long. Like Ted Bundy before him, Sells moved constantly, traversing state lines and evading capture by never establishing a pattern. He rarely stayed in one place for long, making it nearly impossible for authorities to predict his next move. This transient lifestyle allowed him to blend in seamlessly, to appear normal, even charming at times. He could be anyone, anywhere. It also made it incredibly difficult for law enforcement to track his movements, as he left little to no trace behind. Connecting the dots between his crimes was a Herculean task for investigators, who often found themselves at a loss. The fact that he often chose victims at random only added to the challenge of catching him. There were no specific types or patterns to his killings. This randomness meant that anyone could be his next target, making the public feel a pervasive sense of unease. There were no obvious patterns, no clear motives that investigators could use to predict his next move. He was a ghost, appearing out of nowhere, wreaking havoc, and then vanishing without a trace. His ability to disappear so completely baffled even the most seasoned detectives. The fear he instilled was not just in his immediate victims, but in entire communities who never knew when or where he might strike next. Section 9. Echoes of trauma. Sells' troubled beginnings. Experts who have studied Sells' case believe that his traumatic childhood played a significant role in shaping him into the monster he became. He was abandoned by his mother at a young age, bounced around from foster home to foster home, and subjected to both physical and sexual abuse. It's a tragic and all too common story among serial killers. These early experiences can leave lasting scars, distorting a child's sense of right and wrong, their ability to empathize with others. In Sells' case, it seems likely that his troubled upbringing created a deep well of rage and resentment that he carried with him throughout his life, eventually spilling over into violence. Section 10. Society's role. A shared responsibility? It's easy to dismiss someone like Tommy Lynn Sells as a monster, an anomaly, a product of pure evil, but is it really that simple? The truth is, we as a society bear some responsibility for creating the conditions that allow such individuals to flourish. When we ignore the root causes of crime, we contribute to the problem. Our failure to address issues like child abuse, poverty, and mental illness creates a breeding ground for violence. These are not isolated issues, they are interconnected and pervasive. We need to do more to identify and help at-risk youth before they turn to crime. Early intervention can make a significant difference in a young person's life. We need to invest in programs that provide support for families and communities struggling with poverty and violence. These programs can offer a lifeline to those in need, and we need to break the stigma surrounding mental illness so that those who need help feel comfortable seeking it. Mental health should be treated with the same urgency and importance as physical health. By coming together as a community, we can create a safer, more supportive environment for everyone. It's not just about preventing crime, it's about building a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. We all have a role to play in this shared responsibility. Let's work together to make a difference. Section 11. Legacy of a monster. Remembering the victims. Tommy Lynn Sells was executed by lethal injection in 2014. Justice, though small comfort, was served, but the families and loved ones of his victims will never truly find closure. They will live with the pain of their loss for the rest of their days. It's important that we remember the victims, that we say their names and honor their memories. They were mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, friends, and neighbors. They were real people with hopes, dreams, and futures stolen from them. Let their stories serve as a reminder of the human cost of violence and the urgent need to create a safer, more just world